Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to what will be EdApp's last webinar for 2022. And it's my pleasure to tell you what's coming in 2023. So my name is Dave Chalmers. I look after product here at EdApp. And I'm going to take you through what is pretty much the next 12 months. And I will get straight into it. So perhaps the first thing that I want to talk about is a theme that we're actually continuing from 2022 into 2023, and that's around compliance. And so one of the things that we're looking at is essentially set and forget compliance, and we call this recurring certification. So this is where you've got training that might need to expire after 12 months and then be retaken. What recurring certification does for you is it kind of takes the effort out of having to manage that process by allowing you to set expiry dates on training. And so what will happen is the learner will take their training, and then 12 months, let's say, if that's the expiry date that you set, 12 months later, they'll get a reminder just in time to make sure that they recomplete that training course. If they don't complete it, they'll get further reminders and escalation to the managers of their group. So you can make sure that that training is completed in time so that you keep your workforce in compliance. So there's lots of different options with this one. You can choose to do that 12 months after when the learner's completed it, or 12 months from a certain date. So if you like to have your compliance training all done by a certain date, you can set that up with recurring certification. Now, the great thing is I love telling people about what stuff is coming soon and meaning that it's coming soon. Recurring certification is actually in a closed beta right now, and we'll be looking at a general launch in the first quarter of next year. If you are a current customer and you'd be interested in looking at that current beta, please let someone know, and one of your account managers know, or indeed even on the chat here, and we can probably get you sorted out very quickly to get you on the beta to see what that one looks like. So really exciting stuff for those that have training compliance as part of your training set. Now, related is in the compliance field is essentially where EdApp is going and expanding our offering into making it easier for you to gather licenses or credentials that are certified outside of EdApp for your workforce. And so we're doing that with a feature called licenses and credentials. And so that's going to make gathering those pieces of information from your workforce much easier. And what it allows you to do is request certain licenses. So let's say a first aid or forklift license or driving license or a credential like a first aid certificate or responsible service of alcohol, these types of things. Request those from your workers and get them to upload them via the app and essentially track the expiry of those licenses and credentials, so you can always make sure that that vital information is kept up to date and you know who to chase when it doesn't. It's a really exciting feature, and it's going to help make the effort, or take the effort out of trying to get those credentials from folks and then track the expiry of them over time. Again, similar sorts of things to recurring certifications. When you first send this out, the worker will get a notification to upload whichever credentials you've asked for. They'll then upload those. You'll then have the option to verify them if you set it up in that way, to then check them off. And then they'll get reminders if they haven't uploaded the required credentials in time. Equally, when it comes up to the expiry date, they'll be reminded to upload the new version of that license or credential. And again, there'll be escalation paths if that isn't already done. So it makes it really, really easy for you to manage all the stuff that's certified outside of EdApp. Staying within and related to licenses and credentials, another great feature that I'm really excited about is an improved user profile. Now, it's going to get a fresh new look. It's going to look fantastic, but more importantly, it's going to contain a lot of the information that you might have found yourself having to go into analytics to get. So as well as having all the information about the learner in one place, it'll also have information about their course progress, the stuff that they're assigned to, the state of that courseware, as well as other information like user groups and roles that they might have. So it's going to make making changes much more efficient, much more easy if you have to do it on an individual level. But as well as if you just want to check out that someone like, say, Maddie here, if she's assigned to a particular course and what she's done, you'll just be able to search for Maddie, click on her user profile, and that'll bring up her current course progress. So that's a fantastic feature I'm really looking forward to. Staying in the, if you like, user administration, the next thing that we're looking at in the next year, and a key focus for our course management team, is making enrollment easier for administrators. So one of the things that we'll be doing next year is a much better representation of the hierarchy of the user groups inside of the system, and making it super easy to assign courseware to those groups, as well as the children groups that sit underneath it. And you'll see in that diagram in front of you how you can really see the, if you like, hierarchical structure, which most of our customers use when organizing their accounts, and how you'll be able to then assign courseware much easier to those accounts. So that's a fantastic one. Really looking forward to that. That's somewhere in the first half of next year. Equally, and I think important, is enrolling individuals. And so one of the other things that the course management team is going to be looking at is the ability to individually enroll someone into courseware rather than a whole group. Now, for some accounts, this might not be immediately useful or seem immediately useful to you. For smaller accounts that maybe don't have the need for user groups and or just need to add 1 or 2 people, rather than having the option or the efficiency of bulk user group assignment, they'll be able to add people straight into a course and just have a one-to-one relationship between the individual and the course. But I think the really powerful feature, or if you like, underlying foundations of this, is this will eventually allow us to do lots of things around automation. So we'll be able to automate assignment to individuals to particular courseware without the need for creating groups just to make that assignment. And so what we do tend to hear from customers is that, you know, they have the organizational structure that they want, but then they have to add other groups in specifically for maybe particular job roles, or even a particular time-based criteria, like someone who's been with the company for more than 30 days or 60 days or something like that. And so what this will allow you to do, will eventually be able to set up automation rules based upon individual criteria. So it's a super powerful feature. Really looking forward to that one. Again, roughly in the first half of next year. And lastly, on the administration side, you'll have noticed that we're overhauling a lot of our analytics. And the reason for this is that we want those reports to be super fast and responsive, so they load really quickly, even if you've got 60,000 learners in your account. But we've also changed how the UI works. And the reason we've done this is effectively we're trying to get to a place where you can save custom reports. So you can save the columns that you've put in and the configuration of filtering that you've got in. So it makes it easy for you to have a view that you want, to customize the view that you want, and the one that you might want to export or report on throughout your organization. We're also changing it so that we can make all reports actionable. So if, let's say, you've got a series of people that are enrolled into a course, but have not started it, you don't have to go into actionable reports to then select those people and send reminders. And we think that's a really powerful feature to make it easier for you just to find maybe people who haven't started or haven't completed certain courseware within a period of time, select them, and then send out notifications. We also will be looking in this next 12 months to expand the level of granular reporting that's coming. So this includes how many times people have attempted courseware, what they've completed on lessons and slides by user, and combine that all together with some really easy filtering to make it super clear and obvious and intuitive for how you might look at how a lesson in particular is reporting, a lesson in particular is performing, or indeed even right down to the slide levels and the questions inside. The last thing that we're focusing on analytics is we're going to be looking to expand what we offer in ways of insights. I think it's probably fair to say that the current analytics is fantastic, but it doesn't add on an extra insight layer on top. And so we'll be looking to do things where, for example, certain groups or certain courses that might be lower than the average across the rest of the user base, we'll be able to point you towards those and start making suggestions about how that might improve. So some really exciting stuff with analytics. That's going to be throughout the course of the year. So it's not all going to be in Q1 or Q2 next year. That'll be throughout the course of the year. Needless to say, will also be for those of you that use our API for reporting. You're going to see lots of different and really good improvements around the level of granularity that we are going to provide. For example, slide level data will be available in the API very soon. So really interesting space in analytics over the next 12 months. And we'll keep you up to date in our regular product drops from our team. Now moving over into content creation. So our authoring team is in for a fantastic year this year coming up. And a lot of that's going to be around how we can make content creation even easier and in a way stick to EdApp's mission, which is to make learning accessible to all and really change the way that people learn at work. And so one of the things that starts with, of course, is content creation. And so you're going to see very early on next year, you're going to see some improvements to what we call the slide template picker. So that's where you have some 70 odd different templates to choose from. And what we're doing is recategorizing it, making it a bit easier to expose ones that you might not necessarily know unless you're a power user. And so for that first time user, making it nice and easy to see what's available, but equally making it really useful for our power users. Say, for example, being able to add more than one slide template at a time. So you can really get through lesson creation quite quickly. Now, it will not only simplify the slide templates that you can pick, but it will introduce new categories such as text, image, video, and quiz. And that will make it really easy for those that are using the tool for the first time, as I mentioned. But equally for those that have also used it in the past, new ways to be able to favorite things and search for things are going to make that a really quick and fast experience. But that's not the only thing that we're working on. One thing that I'm really, really rather excited about is a new authoring experience. What you're seeing in front of you is just a mock-up. But one of the things that the team's going to be working on next year is bringing a lot of the course creation. There's quite a few clicks to get through from creating the course and creating a lesson, editing that lesson content, and then getting down into what we call the authoring tool or the editor. And so one of the things that we'll be looking at over the course of the first half of next year is bringing a lot of that functionality all in one place into an all-in-one editor. And so that makes it easier to, create your lesson content and the overall structure of the course, as well as making it easy to preview and theme. And one of the things I'm really excited about, even though it might seem like a small thing, is making the text that appears much easier to edit. So what you see is what you get, as well as making theming very easy as well. And so for both power users and for new users, this new authoring experience should start to bring everything together to make it simpler and faster to create content. So we're really looking forward to that one. And that will be available on beta at some point in the first quarter of next year. And so we'll be working throughout the first 6 months of next year on that. So we'd love to know and get feedback from any of our current users. Keeping with content creation, and in fact, the organization of that content is the changes that we're making to a feature called playlists. So for those of you that might not be familiar with playlists, it's a way that you can organize a set of courseware into a themed group. So let's say it's onboarding. one of the first changes that we're going to make very quickly in the first quarter of next year is the ability to then make those a forced order. So right now you can have an ordered playlist, but it doesn't necessarily stop you from jumping around in the playlist, which might not be ideal if you're trying to make sure that the learner completes in a specific order. So one of the first things that we're going to be doing is making that a forced order, which means for those of you that currently use prerequisites, you no longer need to use prerequisites. If you want to have a forced order, you can just stick it into a playlist and create the learning journey from there. That's not all we're going to do. We also realize that as part of learning journeys, there are some things that need to exist in a course level. So the bits of training, they're encapsulated, but also other things that you might want to do as part of it. And so you'll see changes to playlists over the next, I would say about 12 months or so, where we'll be looking to expose different learning objects. So that might be something like a rapid refresh inside of a learning journey, or it might be something like a licensed credential. So something that you might ask for as part of an onboarding journey when an employee first starts. We'll also be looking at adding other bits of content in there that might exist at a slightly different level. So that might be video, and it might be stuff like podcasts and so on. So the playlist space itself is going to get really interesting, and you'll be able to, I think, really create the training journeys that you want for your employees over the next year or so. Now, just moving into the learner's experience. One of the things that the keen-eyed amongst you might have noticed is you'll start to see a little notification bell appear inside of the admin portal itself, and that's very soon going to make an appearance on the learner's experience as well. So we have spent a bit of time in the background making sure we've got a really great architecture for delivering responsive, real-time notifications inside of the app. And with that, there's going to come a host of new notifications that are going to make sure that your workforce stays on track of the training that they have to do. Earlier on this year, we released relative due dates, which helped set due dates on courseware relative to when the learner took them. And that's great, because what that means is you don't have to constantly change absolute dates. So instead of saying, I need it on, say, the 25th of December, that's not a very good Christmas present, I think. You could say something like 7 days from when the learner enrolls. Alongside of that, we're releasing a bunch of course reminder notifications that will appear both in app, in email, and in push notifications if they're configured. So what effectively you'll see over the next 12 months is a bunch of different new notifications and ways to interact with the learner via that notification center. And we'll also be looking at future options around other channels. So that might include SMS or text message, and eventually Microsoft Teams and Slack. So again, there's some really exciting stuff in notifications over the next 12 months. You're going to see the course reminders released hopefully this side of the year, if not very early in January next year. And we've seen great success for everyone who's using relative due dates for their completion rates have skyrocketed for all that are using it. So if you want to learn more about relative due dates, we've got folk both on the call and account managers and support to help you set those things up. Keeping with the learner's experience, another thing that we'll be looking to offer in 2023 is the ability for learners to self-enroll. So you'll have seen, hopefully this year, we launched a great, wonderful looking new home screen where we essentially split the experience for the learner into the things that they've been assigned and also what we call the library. Eventually, that library will turn into the things that you as an administrator have made publicly accessible, which will then allow learners to enroll themselves. Now, obviously, what that means is you can then have assigned content and then optional content based upon who those learners are. So that's a really, really great feature for those that have got, a wide library or you have maybe skills matrices where you want to make sure that people take certain courseware in order to then maybe move throughout their career progression or change to different roles. So really exciting, that one, looking at probably just on the second half of next year. And so that's self-enrollment. And then rounding out the experience and for the webinar, there's a couple of little features that I think are really about the learner's experience and really about making that great. The first one is resume. So even though at EdApp, we preach about micro learning, we realize two things. One, not everything can be micro learning, but two, not even though the lessons might only be 5 or so minutes long, sometimes people get interrupted and they don't want to have to then go back and then restart the lesson. So one of the things that you'll see in the first quarter of next year will be the ability to resume and pick up where you left off. So that's a great one for anyone who might get interrupted or is doing their learning at work, and so they can just pick up where they left off. The other one, and then kind of rounding out before we go into questions, is the ability to review. Currently inside of EdApp, you can take a courseware, and then when you essentially want to review that courseware, you essentially have to retake it. So what we'll be launching in, I think, again, towards the first to second quarter of next year, will be the ability to review a course. So this is, once I've completed the courseware, I can then go back and look at that courseware again without necessarily having to go through all the different slides. What that will unlock, of course, is a couple of different things. For those that have just-in-time learning, where they want to relearn how to do something they maybe haven't done for a while. So you could think like, say, for example, a store opening procedure, and it's someone's first go at doing that, or they haven't done that for a long time. They might use review to then do a just-in-time lesson where they review opening the store procedure. Equally, it will also open up another thing that we're calling bookmarks that will allow people to actually mark slides that are of interest to them that they want to review at a later date. So there's lots and lots of really exciting things coming up for 2023. I hope you've enjoyed us going through it. And I'd love to hear if we've got any questions that we might go through about what you've seen today, or indeed what you'd like to see. I might hand over to some of my colleagues that have been manning chat and the rest. Do we have any questions that have come through whilst we were presenting, or perhaps now?
Hey, Dave. There's nothing yet, but we'll let those come through. Oh, just one came through now. So this is from Adidia. She said, I have a team of 15 trainers. They've been using EdUp for a year now. I have a sense that their authoring skills are still average. I also have gone through quite a number of courses on EdUp. New modules developed in partnerships have been designed in a highly engaging way, which can't be modified as a template. I feel that you can provide some of the same quality stuff which is not developed in partnership and can act as a template.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, thanks for that. I think there's probably a bunch of different things in there. Number one, thanks for the in partnership stuff is really, really good, and we do spend quite a bit of time trying to make sure that is as high quality as possible so that people can get as much out of it as they can. Equally, EdApp has a services component as well, where we can produce content for you. And then I think probably, which is very competitive, by the way, and it's super quick. So the turnaround from the content team is utterly fantastic. If you haven't explored that, I highly recommend it. But the third part is probably a lot of the things that you see in those courses are around special types of theming as well, and usage of certain templates. So my hope is that the authoring experience that we're providing this 2023 will start to make or unlock, let's say, democratize the ability to create courseware of an equal standard. Of course, some of that is down to the content. It's not all it's not all easy if you've got very verbose content, and sometimes you need to swap things over for video. We're also looking at ways that we can make video more accessible as well over the next 12 months. So I'd love to hear more if you've got any more feedback on that as we're going through. But yeah, thanks for the question.
Yeah, and just to add to that as well, Lydia, we do have webinars that run every week with our designers as well to give you some tips and tricks. I will share that very soon with you for you to sign if you would like to join those. Awesome. I have another question from David. Hi, Dave. Is there any thoughts on course creation, specifically around allowing, I think, seers to choose existing lessons and slides, users, thank you, to choose existing lessons and slides to create a new custom course without duplicating material?
That's really good. I think there's probably not a quick answer to this one, but there's probably a simple answer, which is I think we need to do better in our authoring experience. You can import slide content from other places. I just don't think it's very obvious. You can do that within the slide template picker. You can import things across. I think there's some argument for having almost a centralized library. And one of the things that you may have seen, hopefully it's quite a recent release, is our media library. So that media library is going to become a bit of a home for shared content. So that might be one way to resolve this problem. But I do think we can do a little bit better in how we expose that functionality so that it seems a bit more intuitive. But there are ways to import things from other courses into your course, certainly at slide level. So hopefully that at least points you in the right direction, but it does give me some food for thought about how we can cater for reuse of lessons and slides and how we make that easier.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. So another one, it says in our user upload template, it says we have 10 fields. Would the custom report enable us to download a course report to select all or more of the user fields?
Ooh, that's a really interesting question. I think certainly for all of the reporting, one of the things that the team is trying to do is I think we've always in the past tried to, have our best guess at what we think is important. And I think we've been constantly surprised how maybe one other field is getting used. And a lot of that's because there's lots of different information that you might use for a user. And so on a lot of the new reporting, we're not going to really make that decision anymore. What we're going to do is make some smart defaults, or at least what we think are smart defaults, and then give you the option to add in other fields. So an example might be you might have all of the custom user fields that you use, and giving you the ability to output all of those fields if you want in that report. Does that answer your question?
He says, yeah.
Great stuff. But again, it would be, if we can just take a note, Joyce, it would be interesting to know as we're going through this first phase, which should be again, first quarter of next year, towards the end of the first quarter of next year, we'll make sure we get you on a beta and we can get your feedback. That'd be great if you'd be up for it.
Absolutely. I will keep that person in mind. All right, I think we're mostly up on the questions. Thank you so much, Dave, for your time and taking us through all of the exciting new features for next year. And I am sure everyone else is equally excited.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for your time. Thanks for watching, and have a happy holiday season. And we'll see you in 2023.
Awesome. Bye, guys.
Thanks. Bye.